contaminants don't boil out of water. They actually concentrate. And so
I did
we're
not
like
know that.
we're like serving our kids forever chemical mac and cheese people. Hello. And like I had that aha moment of like, oh my gosh, this is like moms need to know this.
Welcome to Extraordinary Stories. I'm your host, Forbes Shannon, and I'm really excited to introduce our newest member of the Extraordinary Collaborative to you all today. Healthcare wellness executive, just transformed her own business from leaving one adjacent industry into a new one, and she's shaping how people can live well and live long. Helen Christoni, all the way from LA. Helen, thanks for being here.
Forbes, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh, it's pleasure's all mine. I didn't even know how to begin that intro because you have so many different things that are just awesome. I guess we can start with, let's just start with how we start every episode. You were nominated by Dean Donlin because Dean finds you extraordinary. Helen, how do you know Dean?
I met Dean at a biohacking conference and we became fast friends. And now, we talk about every 3 to 4 weeks on how we can make the world a better place for everybody. So we're all a little healthier. And in the spirit of this podcast, we are connectors. So we love to connect people.
That's awesome. Well, connectors are what make the world go around, especially when you can connect different ideas for yourself. And the reason I'm setting that up is let's start with the transition. You used to be in the beauty space and now you're in the wellness space. And I know you've got an interesting story about that. So tell us about that.
So I think let's set it up. I worked at Ideal Living like 23 or 24 years ago and in product development. And one of the brands we developed was this beauty business. And so the founder of Ideal Living was like, I hate the beauty business. So if you want to stay in the beauty business, you need to sell this company. And so that's what I did. I went out and I got funding and I moved out of Ideal Living about, 10, 15 years ago into beauty.
Mm,
And in beauty, I developed all kinds of brands. I've worked in color cosmetics. I've worked in the care industry. Um, responsible for a lot of influencer marketing in the beginning of that whole era.
mhm.
And so it was really fun. But then I really started having some health issues.
Mm.
And I'll just get right into it. I mean, I had really early menopause. I went through menopause in my early 40s. I didn't even realize that was happening until my bones started breaking. I'm an ultra marathoner and I was
Oh,
out running and I broke a hip and I was like, why is my hip breaking?
yeah.
And then I broke another hip like 6 months later and I learned I had severe osteoporosis. And I learned that I was, postmenopausal, which was shocking. I had no
Hmm.
idea, you know. And
Yeah.
here I am. I have this severe osteoporosis diagnosis, and I start looking around, and
Mm.
here I am. I've been in one of the most toxic industries. Um, and just literally like mainlining all these chemicals. Basically, I would have fragrance parties in my office, different fragrances, and so I was a real part of this problem,
Wow.
of kind of toxic products in the beauty business. And so I found myself quite broken, not healthy, and I had to make
Mm.
some real and for someone who was, like, healthy,
Hmm.
um
Ultra marathoner.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Boston marathoner, like, I'm a healthy person. I had to really take a look, and this is a while ago, at what I was doing in my life and make some big changes. And one of the first things I did actually was I called Peter Spiegel, who's like one of my mentors, who's the founder of my current company, Ideal Living, and I was like, help, like, my bones are breaking, like, what's going on? And the first thing he said was like, you need to eat whole foods, you need to filter your water, and you need to purify your air, and you need to reduce your toxic burden. And that was my first kind of foray
Mm.
into this next level of wellness. And it took a little longer for us to like connect and come together again, but that was kind of it, like I was
Mhm.
totally falling apart. Like literally my bones are crumbling and and that's scary. So,
Sure.
I was in beauty. I decided it wasn't the right thing for me to do, and I had to really do a pivot.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. That's been a red thread in extraordinary stories is that, there's like there's a what looks like a breakdown that leads to a breakthrough, right? Like this
Yeah.
moment where you realize that you need to pivot. So, um, what do you remember thinking when you got off the phone?
I mean, I think I felt like a little robbed, I guess. Like here
Mm,
you are, you're fed all this stuff by social media. And back at that period of time, and it's like over 10 years ago now, everything was like skinny. There was skinny margaritas or
yeah,
skinny,
yeah. Uh-huh,
lattes. There's like,
uh-huh.
I was the skinny girl, you know? And
Yeah.
so, I was fed this story, and by no means, from both, socially and through my doctors, stuff that they had put me on, and I just felt like I'd been given a really bad deck of cards, and I was completely sold something that wasn't true because I really 100% felt there's nothing worse than like going to, train for a Boston Marathon and breaking a pelvis, and
Yeah.
then 6 months
Right.
later breaking another pelvis and not being able to
Yeah.
carry anything or bear weight. I was out for a year.
Oh,
And then, I mean, I was crumbling, like my ribs were just breaking from picking things up. I was really in bad shape. And so I felt robbed. I felt robbed. I was very young, very athletic, and had to take a couple years to kind of put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And I feel like I just was not given the real information to make good choices for myself as it relates to my health. And
mhm.
so, there's things that you do. You stop eating anything processed.
'Kay.
You eat whole foods. There's no more diet in my life, like diet anything went out the window.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
I had to really change a lot of stuff. And that also it made true of my surroundings, the air I breathe, the water I drink, the products I use, the food I eat. And now, like, I'm a total non-toxic snob. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Awesome. Uh, just while we're on that, you have like a insider tip for our listeners of maybe something that we think is fine but isn't, or something like that? Something I can get rid out of my apartment today is kind of what I'm asking you.
Oh gosh, there's so much. I mean, first of all, like, I think that you just open your cabinet under your sink
Mm.
and start there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's a good place to start. And also, simple things like our sheets, there's nothing that's 100%. Everything's like polyester. Polyester's plastic, and you don't want to be
Mm,
like sleeping in microplastics. That's the last thing anybody wants to be doing. So, when we're looking at things, materials and things like that, really important that you're just aware of all the chemicals that are out there. And then also a big thing that you can go into a really fancy store and buy a really fancy candle, like a $50, $60 candle, and it'll be
mhm.
food grade paraben, right? No, it's a food, I'm sorry. Yeah, food grade something, don't quote me, but
Okay.
it's basically petroleum, right? And so you're lighting petroleum and you're spending 60, $70 on these candles, and you're, like, burning petroleum in your house, and not good for you.
Wow.
And, then add fragrance in it, and so it's like a complete attack on women's hormones. I mean, there's all these
Mm,
phthalates, and it's like horrible for us. They're endocrine disruptors. And so, anytime something smells nice, you need to take a pause and be like, whoa. Like,
mhm.
stranger danger, something smells too good. And my like whole hormonal balance is at risk. It's true. It's horrible. And so you can't unlearn this stuff, and like I said, when we were talking earlier, like I'm in by no means a scientist, but now I have the info, and so a
Mhm.
woman empowered with information is dangerous, and so here I am.
Sure. Okay, well, this is gonna be a little bit of a left turn, but I've
Yeah,
something I've liked to do in these episodes is notice
sure.
my own thoughts when I hear these
Mhm,
extraordinary things. And
mhm.
Helen, you when you said the bed sheet thing, my first thought was, did I not know that because I'm a boy? Like why did I think that? Why did that bias immediately come up, do you think?
I think that, women are the CEOs of the household.
Mm,
And, we're buying sheets and we're making beds. And I'm not saying that men don't do these things, but we're these nesters, like we create
mhm.
home. And this is something like we've just been molded into these creatures. And so it's not surprising to me that you wouldn't think that. You see something, you like it, you buy it. And my
Yeah.
husband does it, like, I mean, constantly. I'm a pure water girl, a purified RO water girl. And I really had to put my foot down on him buying like Fiji water. I'm
Mm,
like, "It's microplastic water, get it out of our house." I'm Water Helen, I go on, I do podcasts everywhere, I talk about the importance of pure water, and you're bringing, like, microplastics into the house, like, stop, right? And
uh,
it's like you just don't think we're programmed, you know? And so it's just we need to start, like, peeling back the layers, and so people understand information and can make healthy choices for them and their families.
mm, mhm. Okay, I'm glad you brought up water because air and water are your jam as it comes
Yeah.
to your role as the SVP at Ideal Living. Let's kinda talk about those, technologies and those products that you've oversaw and what you think is gonna change for people.
Gosh, it's really interesting how this all happened. So, in beauty, a big part of beauty is education. And you are educating the women that are at Sephora, you're educating hairdressers that are behind the chair, you're educating. So, education is this big part of beauty. So, educating on products is a big part of my DNA.
Mhm,
And when I came back to work with Peter, and I was just doing some consulting with him on a completely unrelated product, like on a superfood product.
uh-huh,
And when I was learning more about AquaTrue, which is a reverse osmosis water purifier,
okay,
and Air Doctor, which is an air purifier that has like triple filtration, and we can get into that. When I started learning about the science and the impacts of, these toxins, I just couldn't help but like marry it to my own story,
mm,
and he had told me, earlier when I'd gotten sick, like purify your water. But when I came here and I was in the building, there's engineers and there's science and there's, performance data sheets and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like I want to learn more, like I'm a forever learner. And so when I started learning about AquaChew and things like contaminants don't boil out of water, and as a mom, you make so much food for your
mhm,
family. And when you go to make mac and cheese, let's say for your kids, you're taking your pot, you're putting it under the sink, you're filling it up with water, and you're sticking it on the stove, right?
mhm,
And and you're boiling the water, and we're programmed to think that if we boil it, it's clean. Well, it's not true. Contaminants don't boil out of water. They actually concentrate. And so
I did
we're
not
like
know that.
we're like serving our kids forever chemical mac and cheese people. Hello. And like I had that aha moment of like, oh my gosh, this is like moms need to know this. Like,
Mm,
this needs to be spoken about on social by these like mom bloggers, like women need to
mhm,
be empowered with this because no one wants to be feeding their kids like forever chemicals mac and cheese. And then
mhm,
when you start like digging in to all these contaminants that are out there and how bad they are for you. Like if people go to
mm,
ismywatersafe.com, you can run your zip code and you'll see like there's probably 17 contaminants way outside the health guidelines that cause cancer in your tap water. And so when we start thinking about that, I got super passionate about it, right? So I was like, whoa,
right,
right, toxic burden, 10% of cancer people have a gene, the other 90% there's some sort of toxic interference, and here we are, we're
mm,
drinking cancerous water
right,
basically, and
yeah,
it's like it's in the water, people.
mhm,
And so I got real passionate about having the RO, like what certifications mean, what you need to look for when you're picking a water filter, like just the BS that's being sold out there that doesn't do anything, like rinse and repeat, nothing burger out there that competitors are
mhm,
doing to our great product at AquaTrue. And I started educating. I started doing webinars. I um I started just reaching out to people I liked on social media that I wanted AquaTrue to be friends with, and
mm,
also Air Doctor. And like there's air filtration. Anybody can go out and buy a HEPA filter, right? Or like during
Mhm.
COVID, remember people were like putting like box fans with like a 3M thing. And I was like, whoa, stop. Like that's not really doing very much. But what people don't understand about air purification is it's a tiny particulate matter that really does the damage and gets into our bloodstream. And a HEPA
Mm.
filter, like we have ultra HEPA purification at Air Doctor, it's like medical grade, right?
Mhm.
But it's carbon because we have all these man-made contaminants. Everybody's got like this is another thing I learned. So it goes hand in hand with the boiling a pot. Everybody has these pro stoves, everybody remodeled their houses during the
Yeah.
housing crunch and
Right.
everything
Yeah.
boomed, and everybody's got these like big BTU burner stoves. You're just pumping gas into your home, and no one
Oh.
should be breathing that. I mean, and no one's like, "Oh, I'm gonna like make a cup of tea and let me like turn on my vent hood," said no one ever, right?
Yeah.
And so you're literally like pumping gas fumes into your home and like we're breathing this,
Mm.
like, and it's not good for us. These things are not good for us. And so when I started learning about the impact of pure air, pure water, what it can do to transform your life as far as like detoxing instead of retoxing,
Mhm.
I got real passionate about having the conversation. And so, and I think I shared with you, it's not necessarily about money for me.
Mm.
I tragically lost my daughter several years ago.
Mm.
And since then, I have to get out of bed and do something good, and
Right.
have an impact on the planet. Like it's very important to me that
Mm.
the conversations that I'm having are helpful,
Mm.
and that add value. And
Yeah.
it's more about the education for me and empowering women, moms, dads, everybody to make informed decisions. And that's basically what I do.
Mhm. Mhm. I'm noticing a red thread of education through what you're saying,
Yeah.
like, using the tragedy in your life as fuel to go
Mm.
and educate. And then I'm hearing that, there's a specific, you know, the nesters, start with them. That makes the most sense. Educate them. They're bringing it into
Yeah.
the home, and then I'm curious, is there an age component to the education of this? And like, I'll give you an example. I was a Coca-Cola scholar, which
Right.
means Coca-Cola paid a significant amount for me to go to university.
Oh, cool.
So for years, I went out of the way to drink Coca-Cola, right? And then I got older and I was like, oh, so this has been killing me. Like, is it like naturally an age thing where like you just reach a threshold where you start to consider those things? Or is it just like I'm wondering if that's a compounding factor in your education or
I think it is just depends on how people came up.
Mm,
Like in my own life, I have a Greek mom who never cooked out of a box. And so for the
okay.
most part, like when I said I was really healthy, I was. I mean,
Yeah.
aside from like the skinny that we all were sold,
Right.
in the 2000s, but I think now it just depends on the house that you come up in
Mm,
and also the media you consume.
mm,
And I see very young people out there that are really concerned that won't drink anything but purified water and
mm,
refuse to drink out of anything but their stainless cup and will not drink out of plastic because they're informed. And I think that, it just depends. And so I think the age thing, I'm surprised. I get surprised every single day by people that are very young. They're like, oh no, like I can't use
Good
that
for them.
sunscreen. You know what I mean? Like, you take that toxic sunscreen away from me. Like, my mom said I can't. And so I think so
Uh-huh.
much of this starts at home. So I started with moms.
Mm,
And, we absolutely, like, here at our company, I built this beautiful social community
mm,
of people to continue having this conversation and because they care. They care about our
mhm,
kids, they care about the environment, they care about longevity. And then it has since, turned into something different, and moms have turned into, wellness practitioners have turned
Mm,
into buy this, not thaters, have turned into, hey, I'm just want to like be healthy. This is what I'm using. This is my day,
mhm,
And so we've I've been so fortunate to build a community of several thousand people that are out there continuing the education, and that is meaningful to me.
mm. Well, what is it about, your experience as a mother and connecting with these other mothers that has been able to create like this wave of this army of educators?
Well, I think that first of all, when a mom realizes that contaminants don't boil out, it's like a mic drop moment. They were
Okay.
like, "Wait, what?" Because
Right.
when you connect the dots on how much food you've served over your life of preparing food, it's
Mm,
a little bananas. It's like
mm,
we fill up a lot of pots of water and or
right.
kettles or whatever, there's a lot of things that we need to add water to. And so that breaks people's brains. Like you said, you didn't know that, and
Mhm,
so everybody, just for those listening at home, you need to be drinking, cooking, and please give your fur babies purified water, reverse
mm,
osmosis, purified water. And that is one thing that you can do, which will have a tremendous impact on your health and your life. And then, second of all, we spend 80% of time in our bedrooms and we're sleeping. And, once you sleep when you're purifying your air, you're able to breathe, you're able to, you know, detox instead of retox. Like, you can't sleep in hotels anymore. Like, now when I go out and I travel and I go for trade shows or whatever, it's like I love my little non-toxic nest I've created in my home. And so I think that really resonates with moms. And of course they want the best for their kids. And unfortunately, I mean, we see it every day when we open the news. There's all these chemicals that are everywhere that are affecting our kids,
mhm,
And so a lot of moms are super obsessed about really reducing the toxic burdens for their kids, and we should. Like, these little kids aren't their little lungs weren't made to breathe, gas being pumped out of a like professional level gas stove,
mhm,
or, all these fake fragrances that are disrupting their hormones. And so the more you can do and the more we talk about it, we'll change the world a little bit.
mhm. So I'm curious, the hotel thing,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Like, um, it seems like some of it is unavoidable just in how modern life is. How do
Yeah, it
you
is.
how do you not drive yourself crazy once you know it?
I think that, everything in moderation is fine. We need to be strong. And when we are at home, we can build our strength. And I am by no means weak. I mean, like if I slept and I drank a Diet Coke, which rarely happens anymore. I'm an iced tea girl, but like it happens,
Uh-huh.
but because I'm so strong and because my environment is safe and a haven for me, I'm able to go out from a position of strength and
Mm,
not like this continuously under a toxic burden thing. So I think
mhm,
like what you do at home is key. And then sure, like if you're out of town and you crack a window, make sure you're
mhm,
moving the air. You want to move the air in rooms, get some airflow in hotel rooms. And I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's like what we do at home that counts and
mm,
sets us up to be healthy and strong when we encounter things that aren't healthy. Because I mean, like, look, like I said, like I'm sitting in this room and it's like a closed room of all kinds of things, lights pointing at me. I've got everything happening here, but 80% of my day is spent in bed,
mhm,
and that or time at home is spent in bed. And while I'm sleeping, I'm breathing pure air.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so, it's what we do at home that
Yeah.
sets us up for success, right? So,
100%.
like, what is it that you do at home on, like, a mental and an emotional level that
Oh,
makes you
sure.
extraordinary?
Well, first of all, I think it's very important to have connection,
Mm,
and so I think connecting with my husband, I mean, that's who I live with. I live with my husband and making sure we have that time to connect and that we start and end our day together
mm,
is number 1 importance to me. And, because we all need connection, very
Mhm.
important. And then also movement, I'm still an avid athlete. I've, knock on wood, I've been able to, like, put Humpty back Dumpty back together again. I'm an avid runner. I love to work
Congratulations.
out. I'm, like,
Yeah.
out there, I'm training for a marathon. I mean,
Awesome.
it's crazy. Yeah, so, like, I'm out there doing it. So, I movement is key. If I don't start my day with movement, I can't keep my mood. It's important
Mhm.
for my, especially, like, I'm living in a grief season. And so
Mm.
making sure I get up and move every day is very important. And I need to make sure I move daily.
Mhm.
And then, making good choices when you open the fridge.
Yeah, for sure. Mhm. Well, open the fridge, but there's a lot of other things you can open where you just get inundated. I mean, you said yourself you were a marketing girl, and then you said be careful about the media you consume. Uh, I think you have a unique perspective on media, having worked in marketing for so long. Like, what could you explain about that maybe people don't see?
I mean, I think I've got a really good example for this. I was out shopping with a young lady over the weekend, and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get this viral, whatever. It's
Uh huh.
trending right now." And it's like, okay, um, just because it's trending doesn't mean that it's good. And it's trending because someone's clever and they had a good hook, right? It's
uh
got it's got
huh.
nothing to do with what's in the bottle. And
uh
so, appreciate the hook, but like we got to kind of get off the circus, the merry-go-round here. And I think that um when it comes to health and wellness products, you really need to look for certifications and testing.
Mm,
If companies haven't published their certifications and their testing, don't buy the product, period.
mhm.
Because if they have it, they'd share it. So they can't be claiming like this is going to be because like we do. And I think like one of the
Yeah.
things that, and like I said, like I'm no scientist. I'm a woman that's passionate about having this conversation with people, but it's really easy to talk about products that are backed in science. And when you understand what the science is, and there's all kinds of great certifying labs like NSF and IATMO and Intertech, and you just need to dig a little deeper and do your research and
Mm,
not buy something due to it being viral.
mm, mhm. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Those Instagram ads, they always get you,
Oh,
and then you're always let down when you get it, you know? Yeah.
yeah, you know,
Appreciate the
100%.
hook. I like that. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a hook.
Um,
It's all it is. Like someone has mastered their algorithm. And it's like, kudos to them for mastering the algorithm, but it's just another thing. And we really need to watch too. It's not just our media consumption, it's also our checkbook consumption. I think like these days you can buy so much stuff, click on Instagram,
Mhm,
one click on TikTok shop, and we're just buying all this stuff.
mhm,
And are we really wanting to spend all this money? Is this where we want to be dumping all this cash on these
mhm,
little things that we're just picking up off social media? So I think it's important that like do your research, make sure things are a good investment, and when it relates to health and wellness, look at the tests.
mm. I have a follow-up question to what you just said. You kinda
Yeah.
strike me as a minimalist, like, you're very, careful about what you bring into your home. Do you have, like, a
Mhm.
criteria? Is it, like, bring something in, get rid of something? Like, I've heard a bunch of different things. What works for Helen?
I mean, I kind of am. I love to purge and
Mhm,
give away, and I only like to buy certain things and make sure that they're quality, that they're gonna last, that they're made well, like furniture, it needs to be a real wood, nothing fabricated. And I think
mm,
about what I'm bringing into my home and especially the food,
mm,
and I think that just because I can't unlearn or unsee a lot of this stuff that I've read. I'm an avid farmers market shopper. Number one, I
mm,
want to I want to support farmers and I want to support independent business. It's really important to me. And I think that I don't bring in processed foods as much as possible. I mean, like, I'm guilty of having, like, a yogurt ice cream bar from time to time, right? But, like, for
Okay.
the most part, I'm a farmer's market shopper, and I prepare my own food, and I'm more of a snob, like, when I'm out at restaurants, like, with
Yeah.
when they bring water to the table, no ice in my drink. I mean, I'm that girl,
Yeah, good
and,
for you.
I really am, and people laugh, like, they know, just go for the glass bottle
Mhm.
and make sure that you're taking care of this stuff because now I can taste the chlorine and the I can taste the bad stuff in the water, and it's just not worth it for me.
Mm, mm. I love that. So Helen, I'm curious, what does the future look like for you?
Mm. I mean, I think that ideal living is really on a mission to make sure that everyone has the right to pure water and pure air. And
Mm,
so, one thing that we've been pretty successful at having this conversation with consumers and moms and integrative health practitioners and great people like Dean, right? You.
mhm.
But
Yeah.
now I'm really kind of leaning into businesses, and the
Mm.
environment that they have their employees in. And I think that, wellness in the workplace is a big conversation. I'm excited to get into it. And I think that's kind of what's next for me.
Mm.
We have some great products coming to market and I'm always looking to collaborate with people that are like-minded and support businesses that are out there, with great products, having great conversations with people.
Awesome. Well, Helen, if you're looking to collaborate, you're in the right place. We're really excited to have you in the Extraordinary Collaborative. I ask this question to everybody that comes on Extraordinary Stories. What's one thing our listeners can take away from our conversation today? A piece of advice that can help them live more extraordinarily like Helen.
Oh gosh. I just think it's so important. I'm going to lean into connection here.
Okay.
And make sure that you're picking up the phone and you're talking to people and you're reaching out to people because in this world right now there's not enough, there's too much content and not enough contact. And I think it's very important that we're out there and we're picking up the phone, we're saying hello to our loved ones, we're checking in with old friends and just do it. So I like to take 10 minutes of my day every day and just reach out, call somebody.
Wow. There's so much content, not enough contact. Way to end it on a mic drop, Helen. That was awesome. You can read more about Helen Christoni and all the awesome stuff that she's building at Ideal Living at joinextraordinary.com. That's joinextraordinary.com. I'm Forbes Shannon. Helen Christoni. Helen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Forbes. It was great to talk to you today.